She's standing on my private dock with a leather duffel bag big enough to hold $50,000 cash, expecting me to pay her fine for swimming in my own waters. What Veronica Ashford doesn't know is that Coast Guard helicopters are already circling the island, and the FBI boat is hiding behind those mangroves. In exactly 47 seconds, she'll realize this was all a trap. But right now, she's still smiling. That predatory smile that's terrorized every island owner in this region for the past decade. The weight of the federal badge in my pocket feels heavier than the Glock strapped to Agent Wolf's ankle as he crouches in my boathouse, watching through thermal imaging as Veronica's 3 hired thugs position themselves around my dock. She thinks she's collecting another payday from another victim. But what she's actually doing is walking into the end of her criminal empire. The funny thing about justice is sometimes it comes dressed in board shorts and flip-flops, pretending to be just another scared property owner she can bully into submission. Let me back up 3 weeks and tell you how I ended up orchestrating the downfall of the most corrupt HOA president in Florida's history, and why there's $50 million in federal gold buried somewhere under my dock that started this whole insane war. My name is Stellan Cross, and until my divorce was finalized 6 weeks ago, I was just another overworked marine engineer designing yacht stabilization systems for rich people who got seasick on their million-dollar toys. The divorce wasn't pretty, but Lauren made one crucial mistake in her vindictive asset grab. She demanded the Miami penthouse, the Porsche, the investment portfolio, everything with obvious value. And she laughed when the judge awarded me the worthless island property 43 miles off the coast that my grandfather had bought for $8,000 in 1952. What Lauren didn't know, because she never actually visited the property during our 7-year marriage, was that Meridian Key had been transformed from a worthless mangrove cluster into 47 acres of pristine private paradise, with deep water access, a renovated lighthouse, and 3 structures that definitely weren't on any tax assessor's documentation. The previous owner, who'd bought it from my grandfather's estate and recently sold it back to me as part of a complex business arrangement, had sunk nearly $2 million in improvements while keeping everything off the official records. Lauren's attorney had valued it at $75,000, based on the last recorded sale from 1952, and she thought she was sticking me with a worthless swamp. The morning I arrived at Meridian Key on my salvaged 42-foot Hatteras, the sun was painting the water that impossible turquoise color you only see in the Florida Keys. I thought I'd finally found the place where I could forget about corporate politics, divorce lawyers, and the sound of Lauren's voice telling her friends how she'd taken me for everything. The dock was solid teak, probably worth more than most people's houses. The main structure was a masterpiece of hurricane-resistant engineering disguised as a charming beach cottage. I'd been there exactly 3 days, just long enough to discover the strange bunker hidden beneath the boathouse, and the fact that my nearest neighbors were 11 other small islands forming a rough circle around a protected lagoon, when the first sign of trouble arrived. That trouble came in the form of a 60-foot Sunseeker yacht that probably cost more than most people's retirement funds. The woman who stepped onto my dock that morning looked like she'd been assembled by a committee designing the perfect Florida HOA president. Veronica Ashford was, by the records I'd find later, 54 years old, but she'd had enough work done to look like a 45-year-old trying to look 35. Her white pantsuit was so crisp it could have stood up on its own, and she moved with the deliberate confidence of someone used to having her orders followed without question. Behind her were 2 men in black polo shirts, pure intimidation, and a younger, nervous guy hauling some kind of environmental testing gear. "Mr. Cross," she said, and the way she pronounced my name sounded like she'd found a bug in her salad. "I'm Veronica Ashford, president of the Sunset Cove Homeowners Association, and we need to discuss your illegal activities on this property." I was standing there in board shorts and a battered Jaguar's tee, coffee gone cold in my hand, and for a second, I thought she was joking. The nearest neighborhood was 12 miles away on the mainland, and as far as I knew, my island wasn't part of any HOA. But the look on her face was pure ice. "I think there's been some misunderstanding," I tried, but her smile could have frozen antifreeze. She nodded to the nervous man, who started taking readings from my dock water, muttering numbers into a digital recorder. "Mr. Cross, your property sits within the maritime boundaries of the Sunset Cove Community Association. Your grandfather signed the original charter in 1973, which clearly states that all water activities within our protected marine sanctuary require approval and are subject to environmental impact fees. She produced an official-looking document. Your unauthorized swimming activities yesterday afternoon were observed and documented. You've introduced potential contaminants into our protected ecosystem. The fine is $1,000 due immediately, plus daily penalties of $500 until you cease all water-based activities and submit to a full environmental audit. The absurdity hit so hard I laughed, which was definitely not the right move. Veronica's face went from professional to personally offended in a heartbeat, and her muscles started their synchronized intimidation shuffle. That's when I noticed their earpieces, and one was photographing everything with surveillance gear. "You're trying to find me for swimming around my own island?" I asked, and something in my tone must have signaled I wasn't the easy mark she'd hoped for, because her eyes narrowed. "Mr. Cross, I assure you, we have full legal authority to enforce environmental standards within our jurisdiction. Your predecessor understood this. He paid his assessments promptly and never caused any issues." That made me pause. The previous owner had left quickly after selling me the property through a complicated trust. Had Veronica chased him out, too? But she was already striding back to her yacht. "You have 48 hours to pay the fine, Mr. Cross. After that, we'll be forced to take more aggressive collection actions." She was trying to find me for swimming in my own water. If you've ever dealt with HOA madness, you know this is just the start. That afternoon, I called the lawyer who'd handled the transfer, Dmitry Volov, a Russian immigrant who'd built a reputation for complicated maritime property disputes. "Dmitry, does Sunset Cove HOA have any real authority over my island?" The silence stretched. "Stellan, this is not good. Veronica Ashford. She is what we call in Russian vor v zakon, thief in law. She uses the HOA as cover to take properties. 5 islands in 10 years, all now owned by her shell companies. But your island is different. The previous owner, he told me something before he left. Said there's something there worth more than the island itself. It had to be the bunker." That night, I went back to the hidden room and really examined what I'd found. Filing cabinets with federal seals, documents from the 80s, maps showing shipping routes that didn't appear on any navigation charts, and in a locked cabinet, stacks of old $100 bills, at least $2 million, serials removed. But on top was a shipping manifest from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, dated October 15, 1987, the day before Hurricane Floyd hit. The manifest listed a special transport of gold bullion, $50 million worth, status, missing, presumed lost at sea. That's when it clicked. Veronica wasn't after my island. She was after what she thought was hidden here. The smart play would have been to call the FBI immediately, but after losing everything in my divorce, I wasn't about to roll over for another predator. I dug into Veronica's background and found a trail of systematic predation. She'd destroyed the Morrison family on Pelican Key with $17,000 in bogus fines, drove the Nguyen family off their land, poisoned Captain Reeves' rescue dogs, bankrupted good people, always ending up with the property in one of her shell companies. Her husband, a federal investigator, had died of a heart attack while closing in on missing gold from the 80s. It all came back to these islands and the legend of lost federal gold. I tracked down Captain Reeves at the marina. The man was hollowed out by grief. "She'll destroy you, son. That woman's got connections you can't imagine. She'll find your weakness and break you." But he had pieces of the puzzle. Every island Veronica had seized, she'd conducted environmental surveys, really looking for gold. Meridian Key was her prime suspect, thanks to old Coast Guard charts from her husband's files. Then there was E.A. Morrison, the treasurer, a single mom desperate for health insurance, who'd started quietly documenting Veronica's crimes. I convinced her to hand over the evidence. She'd been terrified, but she gave me the real books, embezzled funds, bribes, the full map of Veronica's operation. And that's when I went on the offensive. I called Veronica, pretending to fold, offering her $50,000 cash if she'd call off the war. She took the bait. The FBI, led by Agent Wolf, was ready. Coast Guard helicopters were on standby. The trap was set for sunset on my dock, but Veronica, paranoid and desperate, came at dawn with a small army, turning my plan into a showdown. I made it to the bunker just as her crew stormed the dock. From below, I streamed everything. Her incriminating orders, her confession, her greed laid bare, as the FBI closed in. When Veronica finally broke into the bunker, she saw the stacks of cash and the manifest. But I had one last trick, another document showing the gold was never lost, just moved by the feds to Puerto Rico under cover of the storm. Her empire collapsed in that moment. Her shot caught forever on camera as FBI agents burst in. Veronica, her henchman, her attorney, her county insider, all taken down in a federal raid. Afterward, the fallout was wild. Every stolen island was traced, every shell company unraveled. E.A. Morrison turned out to be the unsung hero. Her records blew the lid off the scam. I ended up with a $2 million finder's fee, enough to buy Captain Reeves a new sanctuary, to give every family Veronica hurt a little justice. But the story didn't end there. 3 months after Veronica's conviction, I got a call from a lawyer in the Caymans. Veronica's sister, Victoria, wanted to negotiate. She claimed she had information about my grandfather, about hidden routes, real treasure, not gold. I followed the clues and found them, maps to the smuggling routes that made these islands so valuable. Not just lost gold, but entire highways of hidden commerce. The FBI swept in again, using the maps to bust trafficking rings, shut down smuggling ops, and bring down Victoria too. The Ashford crime dynasty crumbled for good. These days, people call me the guy who beat the world's worst HOA. My little island's now a sanctuary for people and dogs who needed a second chance. Captain Reeves is back with his rescues. E.A. Morrison started over in Oregon. Families got their homes back. My ex-wife? She still has the penthouse, but I have something better, peace, and a community built on justice, not fear. On the anniversary of Veronica's arrest, we threw a party on my dock. Everyone she tried to destroy, all together. As the sun set, painting the water gold, I thought about the irony. I'd been fined $1,000 for swimming in my own water, and instead I'd helped destroy a criminal empire. So let me ask you, what would you do if you found $50 million in gold, a network of hidden maps, and the chance to take down the worst people you'd ever met? Would you run? Would you fight? Or would you use their own greed to finish them off? Drop your answer in the comments, and tell me where you stand on justice, revenge, and what really makes a place home.